This is KB0ASQ, and this is the second episode of our project build on our power management unit. What we're going to do today is we're going to start laying out the front and back panels so that we can cut out the holes in the panels to mount our switches and our LCD and receptacles and so on and so forth. So the first thing I'm going to do to do this is I'm going to go ahead and apply painter's tape to the front and back, and then we'll draw out our layout marks so that we can go ahead and cut them. So next, when we come right back here, I'll have the tape laid out. Okay, now I've got the green painter's tape laid out on the front and the back panel. What I'll do is we'll go ahead and figure out where we're going to position our switches and LEDs and everything. And then once I get those figured out, I can actually take the front and the back panel off this chassis. I'll go ahead and do that. I'll take it out to our shop, and I think what I'm probably going to do is I have a air-powered hacksaw, or drill the hole, or drill starter holes, and I'll use that air-powered hacksaw to drill out the larger ones, and then I'll use the drill press to go ahead and drill out the holes for the LED and the switches. I think on the front I'm going to use or lay the on-off switch out up in here, or have the LCD right in here, and then I have 4 buttons and the 4 LEDs in here. I'm going to leave this side blank in case I want to add any functions to it later on, or add something else in it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some measurements off of these items that are going to go in there, and the next thing we'll do using a caliper. And then the next thing I'll do is we'll start drawing some positions on there. First item we're going to place on the front panel will be this lighted switch. Now, normally I would just use the set of calipers and measure around here, and then lay out the hole that I want to cut on the front panel. In this particular instance, it's a panel mount push-on switch. You can see the tabs here that hold it in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to Mouser, look up the data sheet on this, and see if it lists the how big the opening should be, and then I'll lay that out. So next I'll show you where I'm going to lay that out at. Okay, so here's the product data sheet for the particular switch we're using. It's CN series double pole power rocker switch. Now, according to the panel mounting information, if the panel thickness, which I measured on this, is 0.129130, so we're supposed to use the dimensions in the last part here, and they are for the x-axis it would be 1.213 minus 0.004, which I would say would be 1.209, and for the y, or the width of it, it would be 0.874 plus 0.004, which would be 0.878. So I set my caliper at those dimensions and kind of shoved the switch into those dimensions to make sure that it looked like it would work, and it did. So the next thing I'll do is I'll use those dimensions to lay it out on the top. Okay, so now I have the layout for the switch marked out. I'll move on to the LCD display next. Okay, I've got the layout drawn on for the LCD display. It's a JHD 162A panel. I was able to find some information on the internet on that and lay it out. You'll notice the round holes on the corners. That's for the screw holes to hold the display into place. Next, I'll come down here and I'll lay out the LEDs and the momentary switches for the 4 port indicators. Okay, I've got those laid out. If you notice, I wrote down the measurements of the holes that I'm going to drill for those right next to them. And then that gives me a little less than half of the case left if I wanted to eventually put something else in the case to expand it. So now I'll start working on the back. Okay, this is the layout of the back. I have the power cord receptacle, then I have the fuse blocks, and then finally on the end I have the power poles. So I'll start, basically I'm just going to center those down between the top and bottom, so I'll lay out a centering line and then just work my way over from the power receptacle. Okay, the fuse holders I'm using are the ATO style, and I'm using 6 of them, and according to the instructions here you need to cut out for the width 10.4 to 10.6 millimeters for each one. Since I'm using 6, I'm did a little quick math here, and I'm going to cut out 62.4 millimeters for it. That'll give me a little room. If I need to make it a little wider, I can grind it out just slightly more. Alright, I've got those laid out. Power receptacle, fuse block, and the power poles. Since I'm using 4 sets there, they're stacked on top of each other. Kind of had to put a set of power poles together, and then I didn't really have measurements for that, so I had to kind of put a couple power poles together, lay them out, and then lay the brackets out. But there we have everything laid out. The next thing we'll do is we'll actually take the panels off of the rest of the case, so make it a little bit easier to take it out to my shop and put it in the drill press, drill some holes out, and then probably attempt to use an air hacksaw that I have to actually cut the holes out. So that'll be the next step. We're out at the drill press, and the first thing I'm going to do on the back side is I'm going to drill holes on diagonal sides of this so that I can get my air hacksaw in, and so I can cut those out. And then I'll go ahead and drill those 2 holes, and we should be done with that. This one's a little bit thicker material. Okay, now I'm going to drill out the holes for the LEDs, and then I'll go ahead on the back and drill out the holes for the clamp that holds in the power pole clamp. Change to a smaller bit for the other holes. Okay, next we'll use the air hacksaw and we'll cut these holes out. Alright, we're going to drill the holes for the momentary switches here. Alrighty, that's that. We're going to use our air hacksaw here and see how this works. First one cut out, we'll go ahead and finish cutting the rest out, and then I'll take it in and use my Dremel tool and clean up those edges a little bit, and hopefully it'll look good when we get done. Here's the final product. The front panel with the buttons, the LEDs, LCD on-off switch, back panel with the power receptacle, fuse block, and power poles. Things I've learned. Number one, I'm going to have to be a lot better about when I'm using the air hacksaw, cutting them out to the right size, because it took me a lot longer than it should have to use the Dremel on this thicker aluminum sheet to enlarge the holes. I used a little bit of touch-up paint on some scratches. That's the other thing. I'm going to probably have to put 2 layers of painter's tape on here because the air hacksaw bounced around and gave me some marks on it. So we'll decide later on what we're going to do with that. So I'll go ahead and mount these in here, and then I'll start mounting the internal components. And I still have a couple holes in the back panel to cut out for the USB connection for the Arduino and the network connection. Till part 3, this is KB0ASQ signing out.